Today's word of the day is overmatch, a word that is often used in defense and Pentagon buzzword circles, but often misunderstood and misused. So let's figure out what actually overmatch is and why it's important. So overmatch is fundamentally, I think the best definition is when one system can willfully and without prejudice or luck defeat another system. It is a complete imbalance of capability where one side has just such a marked increase of capability that the other side either has to change or abandon their tactics and equipment in order to compete, or just choose not to compete because the disparity is so great. So great examples is, American night vision in Global War on Terror. The Western forces, coalition forces, completely owned the night, so much to the extent that the enemies just refused to fight at night. They completely abandoned the night. If you have a stealth aircraft that cannot be detected by any enemy systems, then you can definitely have an overmatch in that sphere. Or going back all the way into the medieval era, that first batch of rifles and muskets that gave people the ability to shoot through body armor that the knights were wearing, that would mean that you have a complete overmatch in offensive capability where this weapon can completely defeat the other defensive system in all capabilities, in all situations overall. What overmatch is not, and this is where I hear people talk about it, it's not when people say that, the PKM, the Russian PKM, has a 200-meter range advantage over the American 240 Bravo. And it's like, cool, it does, but a slight advantage, especially when we're talking about a machine gun that typically doesn't have optics versus one that typically does and has a tripod, when we also have other weapon systems that can cover that distance, that longer range distance. That's not overmatch. Just having a slight advantage in one field or another is not a significant advantage to where we're going to abandon machine guns, or we're going to abandon fighting at long range. We can still fight at long range. That's not that big of a deal. Especially in context of the new Army's rifle, everyone talks about, but we need to defeat body armor. Cool. I have yet to see real specs saying that they can universally defeat level 4 body armor at extreme ranges. So if we're saying, we need to be able to push out farther distances, but also we have to defeat body armor, being able to defeat body armor at close range, like under 300 meters, is cool, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have overmatch over body armor. The body armor is still going to be important on the battlefield, and the enemy is not going to be abandoning body armor just because we have a slight advantage in being able to penetrate that. And lastly, having better training than the enemy is not overmatch. We always want to have better training than the enemy. We always want to be getting better every day, but that doesn't mean that we are so good at fighting that the enemy is just not going to be able to do it. And overall, overmatch is a great thing to pursue, but it's also probably not realistic. That requires immense investment in new technology and new capabilities, constant training, constant evolution of the battlefield. And sometimes you cannot assume that you're going to have overmatch. Sometimes the enemy gets a win and creates something neat or tries a new technique that circumvents our process, and you have to be ready for it. So overmatch is not a given, and it's actually a pretty rare thing to have overmatch overall.